If you've been watching my previous devlogs, or maybe this is the first video of mine that you've actually seen, in which case, welcome to the channel. You may have known that I have my UI engine here that I've never really shown off in any devlog because I just kind of wrote it out and I never really got it to a developed state to actually show it off or go into it. So that's what this video will be about. This is a stateful UI engine that I've created off of the back of ImGUI. And since we are working with C# here, we have the imgui.net package that we're using here. So if we go into the code base, there's actually several elements that are pretty important here. First one is the controller. We have a ImGui controller here, and really, this is one of those things where I got it from GitHub like 3 years ago, and it's just kind of a black box. I don't completely know how it works because when I found it on GitHub, I only made very light modifications to it to have it fit into my project. And then I kind of forgot about it because it just kind of worked, but it handles some very foundational things like the actual shaders for the UI, the buffer data, the actual buffer arrays, the window heights. It handles all those really important things for the actual UI. So this is our critical business process that is driving our entire UI here. So let's hope it doesn't break, right? So this part is our helper, pretty much. So I actually did write this code, so I do know how it works. But essentially, this helper class pretty much just creates the actual menus here. So we have several methods, some of them helpers, some of them not. But the main function of this class is to actually render the menus here. So these are all our menus that we have. Main menu, a debug menu, a little color picker, the actual inventory that we need to render, pause menu, settings menu, all that stuff. And then obviously some extra stuff like animation rendering for our UIs. And then since this is a stateful engine, we are having methods to actually set the current menu that should be rendered, to get the current menu, and then obviously to actually render the menu. So only a single menu can actually be rendered at a single time. And if we actually go to our main game window, under our render UI, we actually have that render current menu, which is really called every single frame. And it just renders whatever menu is current. The trade-off of this is that we cannot render two menus at one time, right? Uh, but I will say, ImGUI makes it possible to create child menus. And I actually do that in some of the menus here. I do create this is the main inventory, but I am also creating a child element to that menu. Um, Now, in this case, it could be that I just render a child menu within the main menu. For example, a confirmation screen, clickable confirmation screen, for example. Those kinds of things would probably be something I would render as a child menu in the main menu. So that's the trade-off, but there's not too many negatives to that. Of course, these menus also do need some form of logic connected to them. So I do have, uh, for example, some inventory logic. So setting inventory slot items, moving items, increments the slot quantities, decrements it. So there is these classes that actually handle the logic for it. And we also have one for settings This one's pretty basic. It's just kind of stores settings buffers. And of course, this is scalable. I can add more menus if I want. I can add more menu logic. And I even have some utilities specific to the actual UI. For example, ImGUI apparently doesn't actually have a native centered button element. You kind of just have to make it yourself. So I have a utility for that, which is used for the settings menu. I also have a utility for the inventory to actually detect when I am moving an item, which has hooks into the actual UI. And once everything works correctly, you can actually kind of see how all of this logic and these menus interact visually. So you can see we can detect item moves, we can move the items, we can see this little text. My UI engine also handles the draw list. The actual controller itself is going to render the draw list natively, so we can do things like have inverted colored text on this inventory right here. And we can even, the UI engine even allows this animation rendering. That was that render inventory animation method I showed you in the helper, which allows us to have these UI slots with the actual 3D models. It also allows us to have this little spinning animation. Whenever I hover over a slot, it's just going to kind of play the animation. And then when I don't hover it, it's just going to display the still image, 3D isometric. Then if I were to go to the settings menu, I could actually change the coloring of the UI. So this will affect all UI menus currently, except this little element right here on the slider. I guess I don't have that in yet, but I can also change the UI as well, the UI size rather. But if we go back to the actual code, you can see in the helper, I actually have these color these color variables that luckily I can use in all of the menus, which help me define the actual color tints for the elements, how strong or light to make the coloring, depending on what I set the UI color to. And it also has some stuff like border sizes and visual things like that. This was a little bonus deep dive into my UI engine because I've built this out, but I really haven't gotten a chance to make any devlog on it as I've built it out. It's just kind of something that's been there. So I thought I'd show it off, and thank you for watching.